Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Healthy Hotline. I'm Robby Besner, the device developer and co-founder of Therasage. And today we have an amazing guest, Mr. Chris Joseph. He's actually someone that we just met. He became a customer or a client of Therasage because of his own life journey, which we're going to learn about in a very short time. And he bought one of our portable saunas. You guys out there have probably seen other episodes that we've done about the portable sauna, its benefits, all that kind of stuff. And we have people that search for us and have found us because of various different reasons. Some people have health challenges. Some people just want to live their life, pain-free or symptom-free. Some people are just looking for optimal health. There's so many different angles that you can come to meet us and find out about us. But when I met Chris, and you guys that are tuned in to Therasage know that when you buy a Therasage product and or particularly the sauna, you're able to go on our website and just click on the top and you'll see there's a place where you can make an appointment based on your time and what day is good for you. And then you can grab one of our health coaches that will sort of help you interpret and get accustomed to using the infrared sauna. And then we address your personal goals. It could be a health challenge. It could be, that you want to detox or lose weight, whatever the thing is that you're looking for. We're going to fine tune our general reference guide, which you get when you buy the sauna from us, as to how that sauna experience, how you can really make it your own. How can we fine tune that and manicure that so that it addresses your personal needs, your goals, or maybe your health challenges? So today, without further ado, I just want to introduce you to Mr. Chris Joseph. He wrote this amazing book that he sent me for free, and I had a chance to read most of it, skim it. I just love the title, Life is a Ride. I mean, it almost says it all. But in the book, what he addresses, and Chris, I'm going to ask you to grab the mic in a couple of minutes, but he uses words that resonate. Well, actually, some of them are titles of chapters in the book, but he uses words that I use almost every day when I'm coaching or when I'm talking. And they're words like fear and emotion and perseverance and connection, love, hope. I mean, serendipity. These are all the kinds of words and the life that I lead. And so it's sort of got me reading the book and having an opportunity to coach Chris for our first session really gave me a feeling that it would be an amazing contribution to the Healthy Hotline to have Chris on, tell us about his story and his journey, and that we can share that with you. So without further ado, please everyone meet Mr. Chris Joseph. I hope to become a dear friend in a short period of time. And if anything, I think it's really important that everybody pay attention to the experience that he went through, because all of us may have challenges throughout our lives. Some of them might be, the biggest challenges you could ever imagine. But having the fortitude and understanding certain things that Chris learned through his journey, I think are life lessons that all of us can learn from. No matter whether your problem is small or big, we're living in a COVID world right now where we've got a whole nother experience that we're going through, that when we come out of the COVID tunnel, our worlds have already changed, but certainly it'll be different from when we started that part of the journey a year ago. So Chris, talk to me. Tell me what's going on. I actually love the book, and I love your heart, because you're not really asking for anything. You just want to share your story with everyone,
Yeah.
to elevate their awareness, which is a very big reason why we started the Healthy Hotline to start with. So tell us about you and how'd you get here? How'd you get started on this whole thing?
So first of all, thank you for that introduction, and thanks for having me on here. So the short version is 4.5 years ago, almost 4.5 years ago, I was shocked to learn that I had third stage pancreatic cancer. Many of us, even not having pancreatic cancer, know that it's a very deadly cancer. Not too many people survive. I think the 5-year survival rate is like 10% or something like that. So when I got this news in October of 2016, it was devastating. Um, I'm going to leave some of my story to your questions, but I embarked on a very traditional Western path of chemotherapy because I was so scared, and I was so, my attitude at that time was, well, the doctors know more than I do. I'll just do it as I'm told. That turned out to be a big mistake, and it almost killed me. It could work, but for me, it was a big mistake. And I was on a path to death. I quit chemotherapy in March 2017. I had no plan B at that point, and it really opened. I didn't know it at the time, but it turned out to be the best decision because it opened up a world of possibilities, both Western and non-Western. And what it really opened up was a chance for me to take control of my own condition, which still could have led to death. I'm not saying, that still was a possibility. It turned out it didn't. I'm here and I'm doing great. And I call myself a thriver, not just a survivor.
Cool. Um, you know, what I love about you, and even in the things I've read in your book, you you don't come from a place of judgment. This is what worked for me. That was resounding throughout different threads of your book that you wrote and your story. But you're not saying, well, what you are saying is what worked for me may not work for you, and the things that you've tried that didn't work for me may work for you.
Correct.
So mostly you need to be open to understand the things that are working and that are not working, and mostly to basically adapt and listen to what I call your inner voice or your inner doctor. So we all can go to great practitioners. I've been fortunate because I'm surrounded by a family of I think the best integrated functional doctors on the planet. Most of them in the U.S., but some outside, and we share our ideas and our technologies and our research and so forth with each other. So I can learn from you as I'm doing today, and everybody out there, and we can learn from each other, and from that, gain a higher awareness of the things that are good and not good. But the word fear, and especially when there seems to be a free association between cancer and fear.
Sure.
So you get the diagnosis, and by the way, 8 out of 10 diagnoses are wrong, so you should
Mm-hmm.
know that. And I think that's mostly because the allopathic medical model these days, they don't ask the right questions, or you come to the doctor expressing your symptoms, and they go down this categorical list, and and then they say, well, you got 8 out of the 10 on my list, so you must be that, and then you've got a label. Now, we didn't really discuss this too much, but my orientation came from Lyme disease because my daughter contracted chronic Lyme about 20 plus years ago. And so that's one of those ones that I'm expressing, because Lyme expresses itself in terms of symptoms in many different ways.
Right.
So it's misunderstood. So you could have all the symptoms of MS, but it's really Lyme. But they tag you with a diagnosis of MS and they treat you for MS, which is kind of like a double whammy. You're not being treated for what you do have, which could be Lyme, and you're being treated what you don't have. So, it's kind of a crazy world out there. But again, I guess what I want to reference right now is about that inner voice. My inner voice I call my inner Elmo. And
I love that. Yeah.
I've learned at a very young age that when I listen to Elmo's always right. Okay. So as good as I might be as a health coach or a practitioner, or you from doctors that you currently see or have seen, the best doctor on the planet is the voice that's inside of us. We just have to become attuned to that. And so keep going. Um,
I love the Elmo. I think that's great. I have learned that when I don't trust my inner voice or my gut, whatever you want to call it, that more often than not things don't go well. when I do trust my inner voice or my gut, it's not 100% right, but it's right a whole lot more than not trusting it. The other thing I wanted to mention, I'm going to put an exclamation point on what you just said about being misdiagnosed, because I was misdiagnosed. You're absolutely right. I was one of those 8 out of 10. It wasn't that I didn't have pancreatic cancer. I did, but the first oncologist said I had what he termed garden variety, which, I don't think you should ever say that to a cancer patient because it's still cancer. It turned out after I fired that oncologist and found a much better path that I discovered that I actually had a very rare form of pancreatic cancer, which opened up new possibilities of treatment that the first oncologist couldn't or wouldn't even consider, didn't know to consider.
Yeah. Well, it's important to take as from an informational point of view to gather that information. If you have the means and have the opportunity to get another opinion, that might always help in just coloring things. Of course, we have the internet these days, and that's a double-edged sword because there's so much misinformation on the
Yeah.
internet that could guide you the wrong way. And certainly when you've got, I kind of call it sticker shock, which is mostly the label on your chart, a medical chart. So you've got this sticker shock of being given this diagnosis, right or wrong. And then the fear comes in, and then also things you mentioned in your book a lot, and I love this part too about how you gathered families of support groups that actually helped you on your journey. But many of us aren't that lucky. Some of us we're surrounded with our immediate family, and then the next tier out and so forth. And they are fearful also because they see this label and then they're worried about losing you. And then all of a sudden, that fear seeps in. And when you're trying to make decisions for yourself about your journey and you're being influenced by your family, no, you can't go natural. You have to do this. You have to do that, because they're worried about losing you like you don't have your own worries, right?
Right.
And so what was so amazing to me about your story was somehow you were able to rise above all of that noise, I call it, and be able to tap into your inner voice or the areas like the judgments that you made. And some of them weren't exactly right, but I kind of reference Edison. I think he did more than 100,000 tests before he discovered the light bulb. So he made 100,000 errors or wrong decisions before he found the right one. And so for me as a device developer, I often learn more from the mistakes I make than from the actual real things. And so I think that applies in life and certainly in your journey. So tell me about this unicorn thing. What does that mean? To describe what you see. You see yourself as a unicorn. So certainly people out there in the mystical world can relate to what a unicorn might be, or the illusions, or the mystery around the unicorn. But tell me about what that means to you.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I should preface it by saying early on in my journey, just as I was terrified when I learned I had pancreatic cancer, anyone and everyone I told, and I didn't keep it a secret, I was very open about it, but I would see the look in other people. I called it, and I wrote about it in the book, I call it the pity look. People, I could tell they were like looking at me saying, oh, he's dead in 6 months. He's not going to be around much longer. Now, of course, because I still have a smaller tumor in my body, so I still say I have pancreatic cancer, but I don't. I say it. I actually sort of look forward to the shock because now I can say that hey, I'm still here and doing great. And but I think the unicorn thing comes in. There's just not too many 4.5-year pancreatic cancer survivors walking around.
Got it.
I don't know if I'll be around in 6 months or a year or 5 years or 10 years, but the truth is, none of us know.
That's correct.
None of us know. But what I do know is I've had, there have been a couple bumps in the road, and that's life. But even with the bumps, I feel like I'm doing great. and have been doing great.
Well, you look more alive or as alive as anybody that I've ever interviewed before.
Oh, thanks.
And yeah, so uh, you mentioned things in your book like shame and isolation and overcoming the fear of your diagnosis. In a way, it felt to me as I was reading your book that some of that energy that surrounds those words and in your life experience, where for other people it might stagnate them or create a like a being a deer in a headlight where you're just frozen or stuck, and then depression sets and all that. But it seemed to me like those situations, maybe it just has to do with your personality, that you got a strong personality and you looked at that adversity in a sense and you used that energy to actually give you more fuel, to actually give you to find the next steps and so forth. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. Humans are complex. We're not, if I say that I'm passive, it doesn't mean I'm always passive. If I say I'm active, it doesn't mean I'm always active. But I find for my life, when I'm active in my life, it works a whole lot better than when I'm passive. And so that was the energy that I predominantly used. That, it was sort of a realization like, oh, being passive in this journey, in this cancer journey, is not going to work for me. Is not, and it wasn't working. I need to step up here, and
right.
that was the game changer. It really
Cool.
was.
I love that. One of the other things that was a resounding note to me, and many people don't understand, that in order to heal completely, you actually have to address the emotional side of your health challenge. And there's emotions are tied on many levels. We mentioned it a few minutes ago about the emotions that may come from your support groups that are around you. But then there's your inner emotions. And I've been fortunate in my life to be surrounded by emotional healers at different stages. One, it turns out to be one of my best friends. I start my day talking to him and I end my day talking to him every
Mm,
day. Um, and particularly when it comes to cancer, what I've noticed, and this particular emotional healer is a specialist in cancer. And so it intrigued me because um, why is it that people get cancer? We all have cancer inside of us, all of
right.
us.
Hmm.
All it is a mutant atypical cell. And because we make trillions of cells and they're constantly being made in our bodies every day, the cancer cells die off because they're not survivors in a sense in your internal chemistry. But yet there is a shift in people that do get cancer, and the numbers are ridiculous, like 1 out of 3, I believe now. Will have cancer sometime in their life. We have it in us, but why do certain people's chemistries inside support cancer and then it becomes
Right.
symptomatic, and some people's don't, and then it just sort of dies off as any mutant cell would die off because it isn't genetically set like as in other areas of the body for it to survive.
Right.
And so what I did notice in terms of distinction was you can do traditional oncological approaches with chemo and radiation, and even hypothermia is another treatment that's used in cancer. And you may, find yourself going into remission, and you hang out in remission for 3 years, 5 years. I guess it depends on the type, of course. And then somehow it creeps back. And what I've noticed in the people that address the emotional side of their healing process, aside from what they're doing therapeutically, then it seems like those are really what I would call the higher end percentage of survivors that are going 10 years. They're really beating all the stats because they're addressing the emotional piece. And so can you just spend a couple of minutes and just talk to us about that, what that experience was for you?
Yeah. Even though I did chemotherapy for a few months, and even though it didn't work, I always, in my mind, I didn't give a voice to this, but in my mind, it never really made sense to me, and it still doesn't. With the Western medicine of chemo, radiation, and or surgery, it's all about trying to get rid of it. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't do anything about, well, what caused it? What's going on in your body? What can we do so it won't come back? And of course, we know with surgery, radiation, and chemo that cancers sometimes often do come back. So for me, it made sense to look at, and again, I didn't know this. I had to learn this. So I'm not on a soapbox or anything. This is all stuff I've learned along the way. Um, it made more sense intuitively to deal with this from what's going on in my body. And the truth is, I'll never know 100% why I got cancer. But I realized, okay, I need to eat better. I never was a poor eater, but I needed to eat better. I needed to exercise more. I needed to meditate. I needed to do yoga. I needed to walk. I needed to let love in. I needed to cry. And I did cry almost every day and still cry almost every day. I needed to be more human. I needed to practice gratitude, and all these things. Again, I'm not on a soapbox. I still struggle. You know, I don't necessarily meditate every day, but I think about it, and often I do. But I'm doing it a whole lot more than I used to 5 years ago. So for me, it's all about, okay, how can I make my body and my brain and my emotions and my physical being healthier so cancer does not thrive in my body? And I have to say, so far, knock on wood, it's working. It's working.
Wow, that's great. I love that. One of the comments that in your book that caught my eye was that your favorite place to cry is in the shower.
Yeah.
And it just struck me because I often in my own teaching, I talk about why people sing in the shower. And part of that message has to do with the grounding effect, the negative ions that happen when the water comes through the shower head. It releases these what they're called negative ions, or electrons that are charged. And because our bodies have a positive charge, the negative charge of the electron actually neutralizes us, which creates a sense of euphoria, well-being, or happiness. And so generally, that's why you sing in the shower. But I've
Right.
never heard someone talk about crying in the shower.
Oh, yeah.
But I do like the idea of that you found a safe place where mostly you can just let your emotions out.
Yeah.
And many of us out there that are viewing this today, they carry a lot of this stuff inside, the frustrations. And now, being anxious from being, let's say, shut down with this whole COVID experience, it's really brought out a lot of that, emotion, anxiousness, anxiety, anger, all these emotions, they're all bottled up. Where do you go? You can't go out to express, so you can't go to the gym anymore to work it out. And so maybe the shower, it turns out to be that sanctuary where you can cry, you can laugh, you can sing, you can do all of that stuff as sort of your safe place. So I just absolutely love that.
It could be something to do with the heat too, because I've noticed with the Therasage, which I love, by the way, there's been a couple times where I've broken into tears while in that too. So it might be the heat. I'm not really sure.
Well, it's interesting because in my own coaching, I try to, especially if people come to me with a health challenge, I try to have them understand that the sauna, we're talking about the Thera 360, and you got the plus version with the tri-light system and everything, like the Mac, shouldn't really represent, like a cure to your health journey or your health challenge. It should, to me, and again, I'm talking personally, I get up every morning very early, 4:35 in the morning on the East Coast. And that's when I do my meditation. That's when I ask for forgiveness. That's when I set my intentions for the day. I do that while I'm in the sauna. I combine that meditation, like you talk about, with my sauna experience. And so to me, my sauna represents love. It represents abundance. It represents the greatest gift I could ever give myself, which is good health, prosperity, and again, that emotional piece of allowing myself to tap into my inner self and that voice, and probably my higher power too. You can pray and do all that stuff. So that's what my sauna represents. That's what the message is that I'd love to leave with all the people that join us in our sauna families, because because those words, those feelings are tied to sometimes material things. And just like water is a vessel of emotions, so is that sauna. And if we could just shift our thinking as you have, because in many ways you just expressed that, you had to actually create a new you, a new normal, a new
Yeah.
little headset. Like take all the routines and all the things you used to be and just shift them a little bit towards a healthier way. And maybe that is truly the formula that you discovered in your own journey that's giving you your life back, allowing you to beat all the odds. And I think it's an
Yeah.
incredible message.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I look at my life, I'm 64 now, and I look at my life as before cancer and after cancer. My life completely changed 4.5 years ago. And, I wish the truth is, I wish I didn't have to go through this, but I have found a really, really good path to go through it. So I'm very happy about that.
Wow. So just to recap, trusting your instincts was, I think, a big piece. And it actually took your first experience where you realized it wasn't working for you to understand that that voice inside of you, those instincts were actually the best judgments to make rather than all the advice and all the other things you might have read about that were more traditional. And that led you, I mean, well, people don't know out there, but you actually left the country. You went over to Europe. You spent time in Germany getting therapy. And that could be for a lot of reasons, but certainly there are different rules, different laws, and different kinds of methods that are practiced outside the U.S. that might have also contributed to, to your journey. And you picked up certainly people along the way that helped you
Yeah. Yep.
throughout that. Do you want to just spend a minute, just share some of that experience? How long were you over in Germany for?
I was in Frankfurt, Germany for 3 weeks in April, May of 2017. And the generic way of describing what I did over there, I call it alternative, but it's really only alternative because it's not allowed in the US. But most other countries, including Germany, which is a leader in I'm going to use the word alternative again, alternative cancer treatment. It definitely, I don't know, and I'll never know what exactly was the biggest thing that helped me. But I do know, if I judge something by how does it make me feel, I know that 3 weeks in Germany, those 3 weeks I spent there really, really helped a lot. It was doing various vitamin drips, Laetrile, hyperthermia, which you talked about a few minutes ago, dendritic stem cell therapy, some massage. And it was also cleaning out all the toxins from the chemotherapy, which literally was killing me. I'm lucky. I had people who did a GoFundMe campaign to help pay for the trip. And I'm not trying to preach that Western medicine is bad or wrong or anything. There's lots of great things about Western medicine, but there's also choices if you can afford the choices, and if you know about the choices, and if you're willing to make the choices. So, like what we talked about earlier, being active in your healthcare is so, so important. So important.
Right. Well, part of my story, how even when we started Therasage came from my daughter contracting Lyme disease. So that got us on our journey. And then it made me realize, and as it is today, that I'm kind of a vessel, like a voice. I'm not in everything we create and all the things that we do. It's mostly information that I'm getting downloaded from above, my inner voice, to help other people. And I think that's the big reason why we're even doing this interview and what you're about these days is to kind of be able to communicate your story, to show people that there are other choices out there. Yes, you have to rise above it. You got to get all your strength together. You have to fight off the families or whatever it is that might, we call them the negative Nancy's,
Yeah.
to try to find your way through. Maybe, get used to that, listening to your inner voice. We are saying, well, what we're not saying is that traditional approaches don't work or aren't right. These are all part of choices that we make.
Correct.
And so, you experienced that, and from that experience, you felt it wasn't working for you. So that drove you to look for other things. And that brought you to ask for help, financial help, and support from family members. And then, ooh, you took 3 weeks off and you went to another country.
Yeah.
And there you met a whole bunch of people, but that could be scary for everybody out there also, for them to do. But you found yourself in that spot. And then, when I often talk about when I discover things or when I, as an inventor, I think I've arrived. Found the key, I opened the door. And what I realized when I walked through the threshold of that door, Chris, is that there's 5 more doors
Yeah,
behind
that's
that
right.
door. But you have to be willing to and open to get that information, take that chance, take a little bit of the risk, and then now you're here to tell us about that. And I think that that's just an amazing journey, amazing story. I'm so happy to have to know you and
Likewise. Thank you.
and to have this opportunity to share your story with our viewers, to let them know that there's hope and let them know that you have to persevere, and then let people know that you've managed to figure out your way, and everybody's sort of job, their destiny, is to figure out their way. So there's one other little piece that I want to talk about, and you make a small mention about the parenting part, that when you were actually when you were frozen in the headlights, you weren't really, in retrospect, the best parent. It was very difficult for you to approach your children and your family about your diagnosis and the different choices that you were making. And that kind of moves into, well, it's not about, even though this is a story about Chris Joseph, Chris Joseph is also a story about his family and the loved ones and the people that support him too. And what words do you pull together to be able to tell them, either your choices or what's going on for you in your life? And so that really struck me.
Mm.
I loved the fact that you covered that part in your book. I also loved your honesty and your transparency, your authenticity
Mm.
about that, because it's very easy for you to, throw some of that stuff under the carpet. And so can you
Yeah.
spend a minute to just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I can feel myself getting overwhelmed. As you were talking, I was thinking about the day I told my kids that I had cancer, which was the same day that I got diagnosed. I'm divorced. I have my kids half time, and they're still teenagers. They were young 4.5 years ago, younger, and I didn't know what to tell them, but I knew I knew that I couldn't hide it, because they could see it in my face how scared I was, and how panicked I was. And it was always challenging to know how much to tell them, how much not to tell them. I did, and I still want them to live their lives. They have their own lives, and I didn't want them worrying about me, or I didn't want it affecting them any more than I knew it would anyway. So I tried to be mindful of their feelings. And sometimes, to be honest, I wasn't mindful, because if I was in a bad mood or if I was scared, it's hard to be, there for other people. It's just hard. And that's why when I say that I wasn't a very good parent sometimes, I mean, I might not be a very good parent sometimes anyway. I don't know. Our kids are going to be the ultimate judges of whether we're good parents or not. But I think I was a little worse when especially that first year or so, when I wasn't really sure if I was going to be around or not. I couldn't
Understandable.
give them the time that they deserved. It's not fair, and we realize sometimes life isn't fair.
Well, yeah, it's that old story about why do bad things happen to good people and
Mm.
all that stuff. Um, I'm often asked, why did this happen? Like when I'm coaching to me, people are saying that. Um, and actually, the whys become less important. What becomes most important is mostly living in the moment, which is
Yeah.
really what I feel about what you're all about now. And I mean, in summary, because we're running out of time, I just want to say that my big take from meeting you and reading your book and understanding a little more is the words you've used, which is that you can change your narrative. Like the things that you carry, all the baggage, it doesn't matter whether you're 30, 20, 60, 80, it doesn't matter. You can shift your consciousness and get yourself and create a new you, as simply as understanding that there might be a better way, and also taking the risk of willing to try. And I'll often say in my own coaching that we're only in Earth camp, that's while we're alive on this planet, in
Mm.
resonating at this frequency for a short period of time in the history of your soul, of your essence, of your energy. And so we're here to practice, we're here to experience, we're here to take some risk and live. And so again, it was just such a pleasure. I want to tell people that if they want to contact you directly, I'm just going to read this because I don't want to get it wrong. You can get to Chris through email is one of the best ways, which is Chris, spelled Chris, Joseph, JOSEPH at mac.com. You also have a website, which is the same name of your book, which is lifeisarideBook.com. And you welcome people to reach out to you and connect. And from after the emails, you might decide to text each other or call each other, whatever, but you want to share your story and you want to try to help elevate people's awareness. And I think it's really amazing and beautiful. And if we're here on the planet in Earth Camp for any reason, it is to try to create a better connection with each other, to elevate our awareness. From my life experience, if there's things that I can share with you that makes your life a little better, then I feel better about that. And I
Absolutely. Yeah.
really feel like that's where you're coming from. And certainly, your category, pancreatic cancer, it's one that people very rarely talk about and can talk about because of whatever's going on or the survival rate, and the idea that you have come through the other end of the tunnel. You're happy to share your experience and show people that even in the darkest of situations, there's still hope if you choose to take a bite of that apple and move on. So, Chris, is there anything that you want to leave us with before we're done with our interview today, which is really just the end of this interview, but hopefully the beginning of many more interviews and sharing between us and with all of our friends out there?
Two quick things. One is I have and will continue to give the book away to cancer patients. So if anyone wants to reach out to me and just to get a copy of the book, I'm happy to send them one. The second thing is to go back to, I'm going to steal your line. We all have the inner Elmos, and really it's a question. Again, I still learn this all the time. Are we going to listen? Are we going to listen? And I think that's such a huge thing.
Great, cool. Well, thank you for being with us today. This was really a joy for me, and I'm so happy to know you. And I'm
Likewise.
really happy for you having the strength and fortitude and the caring to share your experience with all of us out there. And so, rock on, Chris. Thank you so much for being with us today and joining us on the Healthy Hot.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Healthy Hotline today, hosted by Robby Besner. To learn more about Therasage, as well as get a discount on your next purchase for being a listener of the show, go to Therasage.com and enter Healthy Hotline at checkout. That's one word, Healthy Hotline, to get a special discount on your next Therasage purchase. Subscribe to the Healthy Hotline on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'll see you in the next episode.